Hello, David.
Hello, Nadira.
Now, David, I'm sure our viewers who have watched previous videos, they understand what is risk attitude, risk appetite. The question is, what is the relationship between risk appetite, risk attitude, and entrepreneurship?
It's a very important relationship to understand. We've said that risk appetite is a drive for risk. It's an internal, intentional preference for the amount of risk you want to take in a given situation. And we said that risk attitude is a choice, a chosen position towards risk that you adopt in order to achieve a particular goal. And risk attitude exists on a spectrum from risk seeking, I want to take a lot of risk, or maybe not quite so much risk, less risk. So you can be strongly risk seeking or partially risk seeking. You can be risk averse. That means I don't want to take risk, I find it very uncomfortable. So you can be strongly risk averse or medium risk averse. And then risk tolerant, where risk doesn't really bother you, it's just part of life and you accept it as it comes. Now, entrepreneurs tend to be very risk seeking with a high risk appetite. So they want to break into something new, they want to launch a new business, launch a new product, break the existing competitive market, do something completely different and radical, because they're entrepreneurs, they're doing something new and something different. And so they have a drive to take risk, to break into something and see what they can do, to challenge themselves against the existing marketplace and framework, and then to take a lot of risk in that situation. So they're both a high risk appetite and highly risk seeking. And that's necessary to give you the drive which is required for entrepreneurship when things are difficult, when people are against you, when you don't have very much resources, when you try something and it doesn't work as you expected. You need to have that drive to keep going, to try again, to persist until you break through. So that's a good aspect of high risk appetite, high risk attitude, risk seeking attitude, and entrepreneurship. But it's possible that your high drive, your high risk appetite, and your highly risk seeking attitude drives you to take too much risk. And so one of the dangers with entrepreneurs is that they're so excited about their new idea and their new business and the new challenges and the possibilities that they go too far too fast. And we saw a lot of that around the turn of the millennium in the dot-com boom and bust cycle, with people who invested a huge amount of time and effort and money in ideas that were not fully thought through, and they developed a business which they rushed onto the marketplace and launched quickly, and it peaked very fast and then crashed and disappeared because they had a big drive to take risk and they were highly risk-seeking, but it was too much for them. And so we need to introduce another idea, which is the idea of risk capacity. How much risk are you able to take without destroying the company or without burning out or without going over a cliff and doing something stupid, without overreaching yourself? And so risk capacity is the internal ability of the organization to cope with risk. And we need to make sure that our risk taking doesn't exceed our risk capacity. If you take more risk than you can bear, more risk than you can cope with. And there is that danger with entrepreneurs because they have a high drive to take risk because of their entrepreneurial spirit, that it just takes them too far.
Is there like certain elements that contribute to the risk capacity?
Yes, we talked earlier about resilience. You need to be highly resilient in order to cope with a high degree of risk and uncertainty. And resilience is part of an organizational culture and an organizational structure. Often this is not well thought through in entrepreneurial companies because they are so focused on their solution and their marketplace and their idea and the rush to get to market and really change things, that they don't build the systems within their organization to cope with the uncertainty. They're not very resilient. You often find that entrepreneurs themselves are personally resilient, so they have the ability to push through and there's a setback and then they keep pushing and then something else goes wrong and they push again because they are personally able to cope with that kind of fail-succeed cycle, the innovation cycle. But their systems are not in place in the organization to do that. So high resilience is important to build risk capacity. And also really good people. So people with high competence, high skills, high levels of commitment to the organization and its vision are really important in terms of building that capacity to take risk.
Thank you, David, for sharing your thoughts with us.
It's a pleasure.